morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from the world. My name is Nozugo, and I will be your moderator for today. And on our panel today, we've got an interesting grouping of women who are leaders in their respective industries as well as in their organization. So today I want to do things a little bit differently, and I would like my panel to introduce themselves. So how we go about it is that if you could use this book, which is one, what is your name? Two, the organization you work for and the role that you are in. And thirdly, maybe a superpower that you believe you have. I'll start with myself just to give you an example of how to go about it. My name is Nozugo. I am a strategy and organizational transformation expert, and I believe my superpower is that I deliver excellence in complexity. So yeah, that is an example. So maybe I'll start with who I can see first on my screen, which is Boniwe.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity and the invitation today. My name is Boniwe Dansta. I am a human resources executive at Lanseria International Airport, and my superpower is the compassion that I have for the people that I support. I thrive on actually making a difference and people having meaningful careers. Thank you.
Thanks, Boniwe. And Given.
Yes, thank you, Dezuko, and good morning. So my name is Given Kilbelume Mambwe. I'm the head of human resource for Bata Zambia. So I've been in HR for almost 2 decades. That's 16 years, and I'm sure you know Bata. We are the shoe people, so we are into manufacturing and retailing shoes. So my superpower, I'm very passionate about people, and I think I don't regret having gone into the field of HR. I love people. I love working with people.
Thank you so much, Given. It seems like we have lost our third panelist. Maybe we will ask her to share her superpower when she's able to reconnect. So maybe just as a way of introduction, in terms of what today is about, I'm just going to read quickly the brief we received about.
Good morning, everyone. I'll just jump in while Nezuko is regaining network. She's having a few network difficulties, but I believe she was just going to give an overview of what this webinar today will be about. And this webinar is the overarching theme is the future of work, and it will focus on AI and how that could affect recruitment and the workplace overall. We have Carol who is back, but essentially what we've seen this year and in recent years, especially since COVID, is the focus on technology. You will remember that there was a lot of emphasis on virtual working. Even now, people are being time in tasks, trying to find ways to make things simpler. And overall, make the organization more efficient. So we have gathered this panel of guest speakers who will be able to shed more light on the topic and, share their insights and what they've seen in their various industries. So just to start off the conversation, maybe we can start off with just getting an understanding of your general thoughts on AI and what you think about it. Are you skeptical about it? Are you optimistic about it? What are your thoughts, ladies, so far on AI?
Right. I will go first on that particular one. So for me personally, I'm very optimistic, and also being based in Africa, and we know that we are a developing continent, right, with actually potential. So I'm very optimistic because it then allows us as a continent to actually participate globally among some of the best countries in the world. It also provides us with an opportunity in having to upskill the workforce that we have. Many a times people believe that when you talk about robotics or you talk about artificial intelligence, the first thing that gets into mind is the fact that they're going to be losing jobs, right? But the question is, if those jobs are being lost, what opportunities are being created? And for me, that talks about the learning opportunities that our people can get, exposure to. It gives them the opportunity, like I said, to actually participate in global conversations and global platforms, so that we can actually be, equal partners. As a continent, we cannot always hold on as being a developing continent and always coming at the back foot of everything that is happening. And it is for that where I believe that even with the upcoming generation and the young ones, right, they will be so advanced to an extent that we will not even feel the African border with other, developed continents as well. So a learning opportunity is there for us. Growth opportunities is there for us. Working on improving our economy as a continent will actually, be unleashed through artificial intelligence. So from that perspective, I'm very optimistic about it.
Great. Very interesting. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Given?
Yeah, so I think I'm also very optimistic about AI. Right now, AI is here already. It's not something that we are saying is going to come in the future, but already we have AI, and we have seen efficiency being introduced in a lot of jobs now. And I know a lot of people, there are these. Reservations thinking that people are going to lose jobs, but I look at it differently. For me, I think there's going to be evolving, so jobs are going to evolve. So instead of focusing on maybe jobs are going to be lost, I look at it as an opportunity for us to do things better. It's an opportunity, like my colleague has just said, we will find ourselves doing things better, thinking strategically, finding opportunities to upskill our people in the industries, and also from the education sector. It will be an opportunity for them to, continuously improve their curriculum and, doing things differently just to make sure that we keep up, we keep a balance between AI and human interaction. So I'm very optimistic about it. And I know it's not all the jobs that are 100% automatable. We would definitely need human interaction, but obviously at a better level, at a better level.
Great. Thank you. Carol, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Tadi. Yeah, I'm very optimistic, and I'm already leveraging it. Especially using ChatGPT as an example. And I mean, we're seeing it in all aspects of our lives. It's literally leapfrogs us into the future around efficiency and the time we take to do things. The things to be cautious about is we must always still add sort of our own sort of cognitive reflection on the outcomes of that, and so that we make sure we don't lose that. And with everything, it's human built. Although we're calling it artificial intelligence, it is a form of just digitized human intelligence.
Yeah.
So as we continue to evolve as humans, we need to continue to update the iterations. And I think if things don't pan out as expected with this, automated intelligence, there should still be an opportunity to revert back to traditional methods. And I think this is what I hope we don't lose. as we become more and more digitized. And I think when it comes to the loss of, I suppose, the perceived loss of jobs, it's really not a loss. It really is more transitioning, allowing us to transition to develop new skills. And that human perspective can never, ever be taken away, and it shouldn't be taken away. And we'll talk more about how we can embed that into talent acquisition. We still will maintain our own reflection, and to mitigate bias. Thank you.
No, thank you. Very interesting thoughts. And it's also just great to hear that you're all optimistic about it, because I know a lot of people are, worried about job loss. They're worried about, just not understanding it fully, thinking the worst. But it's great to hear that, as leaders in your respective industries, you're optimistic about it and you're looking forward to how it can help you rather than deter you. So I know we've kind of touched on it about how people might be worried about job loss, but what are some industries or jobs that you think will be most affected by AI, whether it's positive or negative, or if it will make a difference for these jobs? Yes,
So
Boniwe,
for
go
me,
ahead.
I think there was quite a number of it, and I actually want to focus on the positive side because we always need to look at the silver lining, right? So if you look at the health sector, for example, it will actually be impacted, and positively so. We have people that are staying in very remote, areas or villages, especially if we localize it to an African, context. And by the utilization of artificial intelligence, it really accelerates, our transformation agenda to get, technology to those remote places. And that really means that, sick patients can actually even access remote diagnosis from wherever that they are. It will cut on the fact that they actually have to travel for hours. They actually have to travel for long to actually access healthcare services, and that can actually help them. This also include the telemedicine platforms that are there, and we can get to utilize the algorithm that's obtained to really get to understand what are the health needs that are needed in various areas. The second one is also around the financial services sector. People have often not been inclusive or being included in the economic participation due to them not having access to bank accounts, and artificial intelligence or technology rather really enables people to start getting banking services as well, digital payments as well, whereby someone has to take a taxi, 30 kilometers from home to go pay electricity bill or to get to access our groceries. So those are some of the things that we need to look at in positive light, right? It might seem as if it's taking a job away from a particular person, but it's actually enabling certain services, or access to people, whether in the health sector, education sector, in the financial sector. So those are some of the positive impacts or some of the industries, right, that will actually improve the access to millions of people that we have in our continent.
Great, very interesting. Yeah. Given Carol, any thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, I think just to add on what Boniwe has said, so some of the industries that are going to be affected, I think mainly in the construction, the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, these industries are labor intensive. And so you find that most of the tasks that are there are repetitive and they're labor intensive. So you find that most of that maybe might be, might be automated. But that doesn't mean that people will lose jobs. What it just means is people have to look at what else can I do, as in how do I also improve the way we do things. So with the coming of AI, for me, I look at it as more jobs actually coming because like the machines have to be controlled by a human being. The information that the machine is using has to be fed by the person. If the data that is being fed is not correct, you will not get a good result, you will not get the benefits. So you need a human being somewhere to feed the correct information. if I look at the ATM, the automated teller machines now, before they were introduced, there was a lot of resistance, and people thought, oh, the bank teller is losing the job now. What will happen? But look at how many more jobs have been created. So you have a teller, one teller, of course, that is no longer counting money at the counter, but you have more people that are actually involved in having the ATM machine working. So you have a company that is creating those receipts. There are more people that are employed there. You have a company that is making those booths that they use. You have more people that are employed there. So I think everyone needs just to think, to analyze ourselves and say, okay, in my role, what is it that, what do I need to do? What are the opportunities? What do I need to work on so that I can be relevant? What else can I do? Not that I will become obsolete, but I have to just upskill myself and become relevant in future and look at other opportunities. So those are my thoughts around what jobs and industries are going to be affected and how it should be looked at. It should be looked at positively, really.
Yeah, great. Carol?
Hi. So AI leverages data. So I think in any space where there is data that can be aggregated, and patterns formed, that's where the opportunity lies, and that's where change can be expected. And then people, I think we all then need to have a plan in terms of how we can then also evolve ourselves to be relevant in the future. I mean, you look at manufacturing. So any type of work where there is routine, where the work is predictable, that's where you will find AI leveraged. So look at manufacturing, car production, and then look at the outcome also in terms of autonomous vehicles, right? All the great work that Elon Musk is doing, right? So that is already out there, on the market with the Teslas. It's there in aviation. It's been there for some years. I think we all experience it when it comes to call centers, customer service, whether it be in airlines, you're booking tickets, or in banking, the first service line, are your chatbots, right? And then the work that requires judgment that's where you will find the human interface, right? So, and that's where there's an opportunity for us to get involved. As mentioned by Boniwe, like healthcare as well. So, in healthcare, where healthcare data, diagnostic data can be aggregated, it then assists for quicker diagnosis for patients and also the therapies. And then, of course, we all see that again, I think in social media, right? Access to information. We find the minute you search something or you have certain sort of characteristics, attributes, information is then fed to us, right? And then that information is then analyzed and, translated into other opportunities. So it's really, really already all around us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I completely agree with that. Ourselves, we're also starting to work with a lot of AI just in our platforms, helping people find opportunities on the continent and learning more about AI. Carol, what you've said about it leveraging data, I think that's a very interesting point because ultimately it uses the data to be able to learn more about us as people, learn more about our industries, about our organizations, and find ways to make our lives simpler. So I think, the emphasis on data is really important because, in essence, we teach the AI how to work best for us. So it's really a great tool for us to be able to work together with it to improve efficiencies within the workplace. Sorry, there's a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure whose side it's coming from, but if you're able to mute yourself when you're not speaking, that would be great, just so we can all hear each other. Okay, so our next question is, how do you think AI is already or will impact recruitment? I mean, I can start by just setting context in the sense of from our perspective as a recruitment consultancy, we can see ways that AI can positively affect recruitment by, cutting down the process in half, making it easier to generate job descriptions, giving you comprehensive but almost instantaneous feedback on candidates, so you can see quickly, high level, which candidates you should focus your time on, preparing you ahead of interviews, that sort of thing. So it would be great to hear your perspectives on how you think it could affect recruitment as well. Of course, it's not all roses and sunshine. There will be some cons maybe at the beginning while you're getting used to AI and the systems, but what are your thoughts on its effect on recruitment in particular?
I think in that regard, Tadi, it's that one thing that it will enable, as much as it will take away some of the traditional work of having to complete forms, of individuals having to come to the office, for vetting and all of those. One thing that it does is that it's going to actually enable organizations to access global talent, right? So you will not be limited in terms of your talent and where you actually access your talent. And your talent pools will actually be strengthened with capabilities from across the globe. Many instances we find that in certain countries, there are certain skills that are not readily available, and you would have to struggle to actually fill in a role. But if you were to leverage of AI, then you are able to access talent from anywhere, anytime in the world. And that really makes or shortens rather your recruitment turnaround time. You are able to actually also identify high potential talent joining the organization as well. So in the long run, you will actually have a very live and active talent pool, and very unique ways of having to do your talent identification as well. And I also want to just stretch it out a bit. Instead of just also recruitment, it will also help in terms of talent mobility, which in turn actually really helps in having to retain, key talent, getting to expose your key talent into different regions, different countries, as well. But the beauty of it is that the communication that you can have with potential candidates that you are engaging for a particular role can be instant, right? You don't have to wait for the whole process to unfold before giving, feedback. You can provide feedback to candidates at every stage, right? If it's the preliminary interview, after that, you can immediately give candidates feedback. If it's the second interview, if it's assessment, right? And if it's people that you really identify that they might not, be successful in this particular role, artificial intelligence allows continuous engagement with those individuals for future opportunities as well. So that's how it can actually assist in that. So it's not really about doing away with manual work again, but it's also around how do you effectively utilize your human talent from a recruitment perspective. We can never do away with the human touch and the human interaction in organizations. Like Carol actually said earlier, to say the human factor and human interaction will always remain, but it's about how do we utilize our time meaningfully for strategic work in our organizations to focus on this. So I think for me, there is the positive impact, and where there's potential job losses, it's around how do we redirect the time and how do we redirect the talent in doing other meaningful work in organizations that require the human interaction.
Yeah, 100%. Given, Carol, any additional comments?
Yes, so I like what Bonilla said on getting instant feedback. It's very good for organizations. Yes, at least you don't have to spend so much time trying to analyze. But also, my addition to that would be it gives instant feedback to the candidate as well. I think it's disheartening for a job seeker. Most of the time, they never get feedback. You do the interviews. It happens in HR. Sometimes I think you get carried away and overwhelmed with other activities. You interview people 2 weeks down the line, you don't get back to give them feedback. But with AI, they go this through the automated process. Instantly, they'll be given the feedback. I think that's a plus for them, and also for the recruiters, for the organizations, you have that opportunity to, analyze the data. So it's not just about getting the right candidate that you're looking for, but with the data that you're going to collect on the people that are applying, the candidates, you are able to analyze the data and see what kind of, what kind of applicants you're having. You can work with those numbers to even make other decisions, which may not even be really related to the recruitment, to the particular recruitment that you're doing. I think that's also a positive. And also decisions like she already alluded to. So you at least cut out irrelevant applications. We know sometimes we have chancers who want to just come and apply whatever job advert they see they want to apply. But with AI, at least you're able to screen and get rid of that irrelevant applications.
Yeah.
Then the other thing I like is, with the coming of social media, just at a click of the button, you're able to tell. You can find your candidates on LinkedIn. Also, you can check them up on Facebook. I know sometimes you just want to have a feel of what kind of a person this is. What do they like doing in their spare time? At least you get to get a feel, even on other social media platforms, just to see the profile of this person, so that at least you have a little background on the candidate. So I think those are some of the positives that I would think of. Yeah, a bit on some maybe areas that we might feel maybe some cons. We can say, sometimes the systems, or is it the machines, are not emotionally intelligent. So
Yeah.
your candidates, sometimes they want to have an interaction, that human interaction is missing. And you find that maybe the system is very rigid. You've put very rigid or very strict questions. You might end up actually throwing out very good candidates that are able to do the job. But because they're not able to respond to your questions using certain phrases or certain words that you've described in your job description, they are thrown out before they really express themselves. So I feel there's a bit of rigidity there, but if there can be a way of, just throwing in and balancing human interaction with AI to just create that balance, it would be good. Yeah, would get the benefits, the great benefits of it.
Yeah, and just to jump in, I see we had a question from one of our audience members asking how to take out the hidden bias or halo and horns and make sure that the systems are culturally intelligent. So that ties in with what you're saying, Given. But just from what we've learned as well, I think especially in the beginning, it's important not to just give the AI free reign. Yes, you want to understand how it works, but I think it's always good to have, that human element as well, like you've all mentioned. This can also just make sure that what the system is putting out is in line with what a typical recruiter, for example, would do in terms of decision making on candidates, if they would assess the candidate in a similar way. Again, this would mitigate that risk of a good candidate being overlooked because of how the system is working. So I think in totality, there's no 100% certainty that there won't be any bias with an AI system, but I think the closer we can get to it working as a human recruiter would, the better. So yeah, I just think my input would be that the two working together, that would be the best scenario. I don't know if you all agree with that.
Definitely, we do. And it goes back to what Carol actually said, right? The human factor and the human interaction will always remain. So as much as we utilize artificial intelligence, there's always a human brain that has to apply a decision to what AI is providing them as well, So
Yeah.
yeah, you will actually, and also as somebody just commented here to say, as humans, we also still need to do our, due diligence checks, and balances as well. So yes, the system itself might, but there's always a human factor at the back of it as well. And I think it's
Yeah.
also crucial to say, when you actually build these systems for your various organizations, you also take your local context into consideration. It's very important. So you can't do a plug and play of a system that you might have gotten from America or from the Europe, and then you just put it in an African country like that. You need to say, what are my country's special needs? What is my country looking at? What are the dynamics of my country that I need to customize this particular system that I have, because it needs to talk to you, to your country. So you need to also localize it as well. And I think if you do that, you also, to a certain extent, try to minimize some of the biases that might be found in the system.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so you see, like just an example in the area of recruitment, I like the point that we need to allow the human interaction, the due diligence, from the human point of view. I'll give an example. Sometimes you find a resume, someone has a gap, for example, they have a 1 year gap in their resume. Maybe they took sabbatical leave, they were taking care of a baby, or maybe they had a sick spouse or something. So if you are 100% relying on AI without that human interaction, you lose out a good candidate just because of that gap they have in their resume. Because there's that rigidity to throw out someone who has that gap. But if you go in as human interaction, you try to find out what happened in that 1 year. Maybe the person was studying, maybe the person was taking care of a baby, and you find that maybe this is even actually the candidate that they are looking for. So I think having that balance is very important.
Yes,
When
100%.
we don't need to
Carol.
take the human interaction.
Carol, I'll bring you in here. Do you have any comments on this?
Yes, thanks, Tadi. So I suppose the irony of it is that AI is also, in place to help us manage bias. So we've been talking about the other side of it, how we can avoid bias. But the thing is, as human beings, we all have bias, right? Whether we're conscious about it or unconscious. And that always comes when you're looking at resumes, whether it's demographic information or where someone has worked from or where they come from. Sometimes as human beings, there's always something that attracts you, right?
Yeah.
So, and as you said, the opportunity we have is to determine how far we want to rely on AI in our decision making, right? We're not going to give, as you said, full authority to it to determine for us. Now, what we hear in the market is that AI is definitely used for the earlier part of the process, right? In terms of screening candidates, shortlisting, and you can extend that to the rest of the process. Sorry, something choking me. Excuse me.
Take your time.
We can use it for the rest of the process, like interview scheduling, assessments, and sort of aggregating the data. And I suppose we should use AI to make recommendations. AI will also work in instances where jobs are pretty standard, easy to understand. But especially now where we're moving sort of to skills, kind of skills-based organizations, it's the recruiter who has the judgment to be able to look at a profile and determine where someone might fit. And I know in our organization, we have candidates that apply for jobs or apply for the wrong jobs, but they are great talents and they can be repurposed for other jobs that are open or pipeline. And it's only a recruiter that has that discernment. So this is why we always need to make sure within the process we integrate and still make room for the recruiter and for that judgment to happen. So we want to make sure we don't lose good candidates, good talent, in the process. And then just to kind of extend it a bit, just to kind of just sow the seed and not to look beyond just the recruitment silo. Imagine what AI can do for us, because remember, it's all about leveraging data, aggregating, getting insights for more effective decision making around people. So imagine now, and we've seen this already in LinkedIn. If you look for a job, if you just search one job, you'll start getting feeds around, oh, this job might be interesting to you. Or if you look certain candidates, you'll now start getting a feed of other candidates who could suit, right? So now that data will then so when we're looking for people, AI can help us look in places where we might find people who have what we are interested in.
Yeah.
So imagine then when talent comes into the organization, you now have your data from your recruitment process. So you've assessed somebody, you have information on their strengths, right, and their areas of development. Then imagine AI then being able to look at the learning and development solutions that you do have and then makes recommendations, right, in terms of what a learning plan could look like for a person. And then as they journey through the organization, you then add in their performance data, right? And then AI will probably see where roles become vacant or where somebody moves and be able to make a recommendation on that person's succession suitability, right? Imagine AI also being able to aggregate maybe someone's leave patterns, right? And then maybe even again when somebody leaves an organization, we and where they transition to, you really have all that data of that whole employee journey. And then actually we bring that data back to who are we bringing in, how are they doing in the organization, and where are they moving to. So our job in recruitment does not end when somebody walks in on day one. We need to see the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in how somebody thrives within an organization and if they stay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so much we can do with this, and this to I suppose now in the space as we shift to integrated talent management. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's very interesting. I think, yeah, it's true in the same way that us as people have our biases, whether we are aware of them or not. It's similar with AI. So it's kind of similar, but it's a catch-22, I guess. Yeah, I guess people are more inclined to believe that a system, because it's less emotionally intelligent, would have more biases or just a different set of measuring parameters than a human would. But I think that's very interesting and also very true that the job doesn't end once someone has started the job. So you only it's like a 360 thing. So the cycle just begins again. Um, and then I guess we've also kind of touched on it, but just focusing now more on the candidate side. Um, how do you think AI could affect the candidate experience? I know you said it can give candidates feedback, which is really great. I know there's also tools that allow the CV to be optimized, making it, more relevant to the job that they're applying for. Because I know for candidates, it can be really taxing and laborious to have to update or modify their CV depending on the job that they're applying for. So having an AI tool that can do that job for them, taking out the experiences or the skills that aren't relevant for a particular role and just focusing on the ones that are relevant is a big help. Getting feedback, as you've all mentioned, allows them to understand where they stand. Compared to a specific job, but also how they can upskill themselves and improve. And I know earlier someone asked a question of how can candidates upskill themselves? It's somewhere there. But I think with AI being able to make suggestions on how a candidate can upskill to make themselves prepared for a specific role in the future, I think that could be really helpful. But what are your thoughts? Any other thoughts aside from the feedback and maybe CV optimization? Who wants to start?
I suppose I can chime in a little bit. So
Yeah.
in terms of the candidate experience, I suppose one of the biggest positives, the outcomes, is just how efficient it is on time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have so much at us, being thrown at us, a lot of information overload, a lot of things, requiring our time.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to use people's time efficiently. So make the process as easy as possible to apply. So, for example, my sense is a candidate should be able to apply for a job in 5 minutes. I've got a resume. I should just upload it, and AI should extract what it wants, and then maybe I only fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
There are some applicant tracking systems out there that even after uploading your CV, you must start uploading everything about yourself and every job you've had and the skills, etc. So that's just a duplication and really not putting the candidate, at the center of it. Something again, just to watch, we keep talking about this human centricity, and this is in every aspect of our lives where we engage with digital platforms. It must feel like there's a human behind it, and that considered thought has been given
Yeah.
before feedback is given,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise we may totally detach, from people, and how we make people feel, that feeling lasts for a long time. So and I think we must also be able to just, give the candidate the assurance that we've considered the sort of the hard technical aspects as well as the human side of it.
Yeah.
Thank.
Agreed. Boniwe, given any additional comments?
Yeah, so on the experience, I think in terms of upskilling, I see on some platforms, if you, let's say on LinkedIn, if you try to search a job or maybe you applied for a job, because of that intelligence, somehow there will be courses that will be, online courses that are going to be suggested for you going forward. Or since you applied for HR manager job, here are some of the courses that you need to do, or here are some of the skills you need to develop. And, I think that is good in a way because it helps, candidates, it helps them to see in case there are somewhere you have got gaps, you're able to upskill and grow. So just to make yourself a better candidate next time. And also, yeah, it's also good for candidates to gain more information on the company that they're applying to.
Yeah.
Without AI, it's a little bit tricky to know which companies is. The company will do its research on you. They'll ask you questions to interview you, but also the candidate needs to get more information about the company that they're applying to. So I think with AI, that has become very easy for candidates to gather, information. Even as they are applying, they're able to, to get more data or more information on that company. Should they want to stop? Should they want to continue with that application? At least they can make that informed decision.
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
100%.
I think that is. But when it comes to personal data, sometimes I think you find candidates are a bit hesitant because there are times where you are required to, let's say, review some of the data that ideally you would not review. So that poses as a challenge in some cases because you don't know where that information is going to go. Of course, there will be all these privacy policies and everything, but there's a bit of hesitance sometimes to release certain information
Yeah.
because of personal reasons. So yeah, I think that becomes a challenge.
Yeah, of course. Boniwe, any insights on this?
I think Given has actually, summed it up quite well. For me, I think the last one that I will just add there, it's also around, brand association. Sometimes you find candidates going through a recruitment process with a particular, organization because they actually associate with it well. Maybe because of the work that they are doing, in the communities that they serve, right? The social impact, that organization has, and for you to also keep abreast in terms of what that organization is, to actually really get to affirm how associated you are with that organization, and that the fact that you want to continue associating with that organizations, because it's not all candidates, when they have been regretted, they want to cut ties with the organization. You're always looking forward to future opportunities with them, future engagements with them, and what other things that are really they are doing that really talks to you on a personal level in terms of your values and organizational values, if there is a connection between the two. Because one of the things that organizations will do, and especially some that are very transformative, it's how do I still engage and keep talent to me, even if I don't have an opportunity at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
Because you want that when that opportunity comes, probably in 3 months or in a year, you can still pick up the conversation with that particular candidate, because you've actually kept the communication channels open, and those communication channels are open through AI.
Yeah, 100%. I would also just say that, you know, agreeing with everything that you've all said, but I also feel that for AI to make sense or to be adopted into an organization, it needs to be done well, not just doing it as a reaction to be ahead of the curve or to be innovative. I think you really have to make sure that it is going to work for you, that it's a good platform that's been well thought out, just like I think Carol said it earlier, that it has to give the sense of almost like it's a human. So it needs to not completely change the process for candidates or for even recruiters, but it needs to give a sense that it's working to the candidate's advantage as well as to the recruiter's advantage, but being personable, still coming across as relatable, while also being efficient and doing the things that a machine should be doing. Bonnie, where do you have any comments on that? Bonnie, where we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I say I actually agree with you. I agree with you. And just to add to your point, we shouldn't be utilizing artificial intelligence just, to also be the new kid on the block or just to be ahead of the curve, but without, with a good intention thereof. And also speaking from an African, perspective, I think what is important for us in our continent when we actually get to adopt whatever artificial intelligence system, it's also trying to we need to build comprehensive policy frameworks, right? That really talk to our strategies and what exactly why are we doing it? I think the why becomes very important. That really then would actually get to inform, the how. Because in certain instances, and I think I read on an article on the AI readiness index, right? Some of the countries will actually then implement it because it's the in thing, but not necessarily because it's addressing certain things in their respective country. So I think us having to understand why we're doing it, it will inform the how. It will enable us to actually build and develop comprehensive, policy frameworks and informed initiatives for our continent as well. And it will actually make us sure that we get and capture the right quality data from an African perspective as well. So we need to look at it just holistically, not because the world is doing it, then we are also doing it. It needs to be meaningful. It needs to address some of the challenges that we have in our continent, and it needs to be an answer that we are looking for whatever that we want to bring in our world.
Yeah, definitely agreed with that. So just as we are about to wrap up, I'd like to encourage anyone in the audience, if you have any last questions that you'd like to ask our recruiters, please feel free to pop them in the chat box and we will come back to them. But until then, I just have a few more questions. So what can organizations do to ensure a healthy attitude towards AI? I mean, I can just start by saying that speaking with you ladies, I think it's great and very encouraging already just to hear that you all have a positive outlook towards AI. And I think that if you guys have a positive attitude towards it, your teams as a result will also, by proxy, develop a positive attitude towards it if they don't already, and that will just trickle down to everyone else. I think it really does start from the top, and you guys being open to it will encourage other people to be open to it as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can kick us off. So I think whatever we do with AI should be the same approach we adopt in everything when it comes to people and human resources. In that legally, it must always align, with the local, employment legislation, and that it must be non-discriminatory and just respect privacy. Data privacy is really now front of mind, globally, and there is legislation around that. And then it must just be ethical. We must just do the right thing. So continue to still apply sort of good judgment. So it must be transparent, right? And we've talked about the bias, right?
Yeah.
People must have a sense, it must leave people feeling that we've been fair and equitable especially when you look at Africa, where there is so many variances, socioeconomic variances across the continent. So we must just make sure that, candidates are not, disadvantaged to do that. And then, of course, I think just help everybody understand what AI is. So AI is a buzzword, right? So just unpack it for people, enhance their understanding, their awareness of it, because I think once they're aware, it can actually foster innovation. Then people can look at the work that they do and, then be creative around how it can enhance that efficiency. And ultimately, I think once you try it, you see the value, and I think you get excited about it. That I think you actually shift your mindset from fear to excitement, at the opportunities.
Yeah,
Thanks.
100%. Great. Thank you very much. Given, I'll come to you and then we'll go to Boniwe.
Okay. Yeah. So I think organizations also need to support. So to start with, we need to have open communication. I think as HR professionals, we need to encourage open communication in our organizations. When you're not open, people will always be suspicious of what it is that you're doing. So if you are employing AI in your organization, you need to be very open about it. Allow people to ask questions, support them in terms of training as well. So we need to come up with policies that are very well balanced. And we have to be very, like everyone else is saying, we have to be, there has to be integrity, and we have to be seen to be, doing things that are ethical in whatever it is. So policies, training policies, they have to be very flexible, because we are bringing in new technology, and all people need to be upskilled. We don't want to leave anyone behind. We don't want to let anyone start thinking to say, oh, maybe my skills are obsolete. What will happen to me? I'm going to lose my job. But we have to, just make ourselves clear that we're going to be supportive as the organizations. And also like I said, we need to allow for questions. Sometimes anything that is new, people will try to resist. So we have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared for change management, and that's why it's very important that we understand what it is that we are doing. So right now, each one of us should know what, in terms of in my profession or in my function, what jobs or what tasks are going to be affected by AI, and how do I help others. We have to understand, and then also just understand how the future is going to impact each one of our roles or each one of our tasks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boniwe?
Oh, great. Thanks. I love that Given made mention of, of change management. And I think sometimes this is the piece that our leaders, miss, because we getting things in place, assuming that everybody will be excited, but people cannot be excited about things that they don't understand, things that they were not part of. So we need to actually adopt a change leadership approach whereby we actually even identify, leaders and ambassadors of the initiatives that we are doing in our organization, so that we actually have buy-in. And I think for me, really, it's around also incentivizing, I think good behavior and application of artificial intelligence, and that can actually encourage, the uptake and the excitement around, the offering, and the transformation journey that we are in. Because human minds and behavior, people work on incentives, people thrive on incentives, and we're not saying we need to be paying people for doing what will benefit them in the long run, but how do you also create the hype, the excitement, and keep people, energized up until we get to a point to say we are comfortable with what we have done. Now it's just about a matter of, maintenance and just trying to keep abreast with what's happening. So look at other, ways of having to keep people engaged in the journey, because I must say, from an African perspective, it's not really an easy journey for most countries and most, companies, and hence we need to really be creative and journey with all the people across all levels, and not just being decided in boardrooms and then being pushed down on people to receive and to utilize, because that's where the resistance comes from.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a great way to wrap up the webinar. So there's been a lot of focus on, the key takeaways, I guess I would say would be to focus on change management. People can't be open to things that they don't understand. So it's just being open with them, honest with them, creating a safe environment for them to feel free to ask questions that they have, and creating a sense of security as much as possible, that this is not being brought to replace you, it's being brought in to help. And then also just eliminating the fear of bias, because if you just approach it in the same way that you would approach anything else with the human being involved, it's actually quite similar, like Carol brought up earlier. And I think people again should also remember that it's similar to any other piece of technology. So the same way that those bits of technology have helped, AI can also help as well. But it only works best with a person, I think, in the beginning, or as at least for now. Are there any other parting words, parting comments that you have before we wrap up the webinar? We only have a few minutes left.
Thanks, Tadi, and thank you to the audience. Really been a great conversation. I just really want to reiterate that AI is really extremely powerful. It's a powerful tool that can really augment, our work, the routine tasks, and just really provide, data insights that in a more efficient way than we would, normally do otherwise. However, as we've been saying, it's important that we balance the human judgment, right? And that we don't lose that, and that we spark more creativity and also maintain the emotional intelligence. And so it's really a collaboration, of all the people in an organization. It will not replace the humans. It should not, right? And should really lead to sort of a more productive and engaging workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Boniwe, I'll come to you.
Great. I think for me, it's really saying, artificial intelligence really presents an exciting time and opportunity for us, as a continent, for us to actually be visible globally as well. And we should actually, grab the opportunities, with both hands, and see what learning opportunities can come there. And we can see how we can really participate, at a global level. So I think for me, it's that let's grab the opportunity. Let's be willing to learn. Let's be willing to interrogate what we see. And only then we can be able to fully comprehend what lies ahead for us.
100%. Given?
Yeah, I think my two colleagues have wrapped it up nicely. I like what Carol said. So for me, I think we have to look at AI as, it will help us to evolve. So instead of looking at it negatively, we have to be optimistic that this is something that is going to help us be more efficient, and it will give us more opportunities to do things better. So instead of our jobs being obsolete, to evolve and do things better, and I think be more strategic in our jobs, in our roles. And the main point, I think, like Carol said, we just need to make sure that we balance. We don't take away the human interaction. It's very, very important, because also AI without human interaction we're not really going to get the benefits from it. So there has to be that. We have to strike that balance.
100%. Thank you, ladies, and thank you to our audience for joining us this morning. It's been a great conversation, and it's especially great to have this webinar on the future of work and AI being discussed with a panel of women. So thank you, Carol, who's representing MasterCard Foundation, Boniwe, who's representing Lanseria Airport in South Africa, and Given, who is representing Bata in Zambia. It's been great to have you, and thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you
Thank you
all.
for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.